Yeah, Jordan's sweating out of under right now, CT, in the ninth.
Padres.
The under, yeah. He's got 8.5.
5-3 right now. Truck. Nice to meet you, by the way, Jordan.
Deals. And Bonds hits one high. Hits it deep. It is out of here. 7:56. Bonds stands alone. Now Booker with Tucker on him. Throws it up for 8. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo. What a block from Giannis.
17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead.
Minute remaining. And they're putting Curry in a pick and roll, trying to get him on Irving. Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown.
We're sending it in, Jerome. That's for damn sure.
Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Taproom Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jordan. Stacks on Stacks. Lats. Joined, as always, with my guy, Mr. Aaron Kidd. And we have a very special guest joined with us tonight. We got Chris Thurston, a.k.a. CT Bets. You can find him on Twitter at CTBets16. He's from the Hustle Show pod on Wager Talk. You could catch him every Wednesday on Wager Talk's YouTube. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday. Good show, by the way. Rotating guests, but BP and Trig are always on there. They've been guests on our show as well, so definitely tap in with that. How you fellas doing tonight?
Hey, Jordan, I'm doing great, man. And I'm very honored to have our buddy CT on tonight to break down the Big 12 with us. I am fucking tired of betting baseball. And I'm ready to break on football, so bring it on.
Love it. So CT, tell us a little bit about yourself. I just learned something new before that you are a co-owner of Viva Seltzer. I had no idea. I seen it, sponsored by, or you guys sponsor Wager Talk, and I see it everywhere. Now I'm kind of correlating it all together. So tell us a little about yourself. Tell the folks about you.
Yeah, excited to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me. And kind of like AK said, I am ready for football season. I am done with this baseball nonsense, and luckily the 4th of July is behind us. That means we're one step closer to football season. So yeah, as you said, Jordan, I've been with Wager Talk for about 3 years now. Good friends with Kelly Stewart. Kelly in Vegas, became friends with her about 6-7 years ago, out in Vegas signing up for the contest. And then we just became very close after that, and was able to kind of develop a good relationship. And we decided to start the Hustle Show pod 3 summers ago when she was up at my house visiting for the 4th of July. Go figure, with Trig, Drew Martin Betts, Ariel, and a few others. And we decided, let's do a show together, 4 good friends and having a good time, and kind of mix in a little gambling and laughter at the same time. So we're coming up on our 3rd season, which is rolling right now. It's like you said, we got a couple fill-ins here and there, but the main, the core 4 is Kelly, Drew, Trig, and myself. And you could expect to see all 4 of us going forward late August all through March Madness. So we've been doing that for a while. I've been on Sports Map Radio, do a gambling show on Sports Map Radio for the last few years. That's on Tuesday nights, 8 Eastern. You could find me there. And then do a lot of local stuff here in Boston with 98.5, the Sports Hub, as well. So been handicapping game since I was probably 13, 14 years old. Didn't really figure out what I was doing until I always like to say you need to go broke at least 3-4 times in your life to actually figure it out. And that didn't happen until I was about 28 years old when I finally realized somewhat of what I'm doing. And you don't really I like to say we still don't know exactly everything that we're doing right now, but we're figuring it out along the way here, guys.
Nice. Hey, you guys seen that guy on Twitter, Anon Betting, who apparently went 80-0 on baseball bets this year?
I have not. No.
He had
I've seen a little bit of chatter about it, Jordan, but hey,
he
he's got
basically
it figured
blocked
out, and I
everyone
don't.
too.
So more power to him.
It's documented and everything.
Nah, he's definitely bullshitting. Like for
Oh, okay.
sure.
I was gonna say, geez.
Do you know Gino from Bet Openly, right? Yeah, so like
Yeah.
he got into it with Gino one day, and then like couple months later, this is by back in college basketball season. Couple months later, he's paying these like Hoops Legion, which is like has like 500,000 followers to like promote his site, and he has this chart, and it's like 80 games just all green. Like if you went 80-0 in college basketball or in baseball, then you could figure out how to get to Mars, and I'm definitely sure that.
I would agree with that statement for sure.
But it's to your point, nobody's perfect at betting, and I think that's the first thing people need to realize, because I feel like people get down on themselves when they lose, and it's like, man, like AK and I talked about this last Friday, like it's a grind, man, an absolute grind, and you got to be psychotic to bet baseball every day. But here we are.
I say all the time on a bunch of my shows, like, listen, like if you think this is for you, you should think again, because it's an absolute grind, and the highs and the lows are going to make you have heart attacks, and you won't be able to sleep at night at times, and you need to live, breathe, and sleep this. And man, if you're not built for this, you're in the wrong business, and go find a different hobby. It's truly a daily freaking grind.
100% agree. 100%. All right, so we're here to talk Big 12 football today. We have gone through the AAC, and we also went through Conference USA. Now we're moving on to the Big 12, which is our first Power 5 conference that we're going to preview. I think this conference is pretty wide open. So before we get into the teams, let's kind of just like give an overview of this conference. Like, I feel like this conference is absolutely wide open. CT, you being the guest, like, give us your thoughts on this conference here.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on wide open there, Jordan. I think there's probably about 6 or 7 teams that could win this conference. Obviously, this year is it's the first year. If you're listening and you don't know, it's the first year for the Big 12 to have 14 teams, right? BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and Central Florida. They joined the conference this year. I think they actually just made it official sworn in like earlier this week.
Yep.
And it's the last year for Texas and OU. So it's kind of a bittersweet for Big 12 fans here, because Texas and Oklahoma, right? I'm a Baylor guy, but they have been the juggernauts of the Big 12 for years and years. And they're heading out to the SEC in 2024. I'm not one of those Big 12 fans that's sour about it. Good for them. They have the money and the boosters to be able to do it. But on the other hand, guys, best of luck to you. I mean, Oklahoma's used to, getting that bid into the well, it's not going to be 4 playoff teams anymore after this year, but they're always used to winning the Big 12 and just getting in. Man, going to the SEC is going to be a totally different story. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, everybody's acting like Texas is back and they're going to win this thing. I mean, we're looking at FanDuel right now to do this show, Jordan, right? And plus 115 on Texas to win the Big 12. Like, you got to be absolutely insane to tie your money up on Texas to win the Big 12, getting back plus 15. Yeah. I just think that's crazy. We were talking about Sark, off air before we started. And I mean, he hasn't really done much at Texas since he's been there. And all of a sudden now they're they're going to be loaded on offense. Yeah, great. I mean, but do you really trust Sark to just be able to get it done in this conference? I think Oklahoma is going to be a lot better. I think Kansas State, they're in contention. Texas Tech, Baylor, and then you can never count out Sonny Dykes, even though they lost a ton. So those are the teams that I think that could actually win this: Texas, Oklahoma, K-State, Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU. I think from there on, there's a really big drop off.
Right.
And to CT's point, CT, you said, you kind of named off 6 teams right there. If you looked at most preseason rankings last year, Kansas State and TCU were somewhere around that 5th or 6th, what people had ranked coming into the season, and then look what happens there. So, to your point, man, I think it's wide open race, and you guys always say they don't even need to play the season because so many people are waiting for Texas to win, right? And I think Texas Tech's going to be tough. I'm not as high on them as I originally were because kind of becoming a trendy pick, and I don't usually like the trendy picks too much. But I think Texas Tech's going to be tough again this year too, and I think Kansas State's going to pick up right where they left off too. So I think it's wide open. I'm excited.
Yeah, hands down, I think Chris Kleiman's the best coach in this conference. I won't even say that softly. I actually picked Kansas State to win the Big 12 last year. I actually tweeted Kelly last year, right before the season even started. She asked, where do we think Kansas State could go? I said, they're going to win this conference. I thought I was that high on them. They'd obviously lose a ton, but I do think with Kleiman being there, I think they're going to be right back. We're going to talk deeper into this, but I agree with your Sark analysis. Texas should run away with this conference. They're the most talented team in this conference, hands down. But we all know Sark is going to lose 3 games he should absolutely win. It's just what happens. And you should, before the Baylor game, should send him some Viva Seltzer because he loves tequila.
Get him a little loopy. He's got a tall task opening, what is it, the second weekend when he's got to go on the road to Bama.
Yeah.
We'll see how good this Texas team is real soon.
Yep, I agree. And I also think, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I also think the Arch Manning thing, if Quinn Ewers plays rough his first couple starts, you're going to start to hear rumblings from those Texas fans because you know how obnoxious they are. They're going to say,
we need calling for his name after the Alabama game. Just watch.
Yep. So a lot of things going on with them. So let's hop into the Big 12. We're going to start lowest to highest like we always do. So we'll start with a newly appointed Big 12 team, the Houston Cougars, with Dana Holgerson as their coach. Houston, in my opinion, was but they were a very disappointing team last year. I thought they were going to win the AAC, and they were terrible. They had a great quarterback in Tune, great wide receiver in Tank Dell. Lose both those guys. CT, what's your outlook on Houston coming into this their first Big 12 season?
Yeah, Houston, right? They're now finally a Power 5 team, right? And they're present for that is they get to face one of the toughest schedules in the nation.
Yeah.
And head coach Dana Holgerson, I actually really did like Holgerson a lot when he was at Westphal. He hasn't really done anything special since he arrived for the Cougars, right? He's 27-20. That's his record down in Houston. The transfer quarterback, I think was it Donovan Smith? He comes over from the Red Raiders, Texas Tech. I think he should help them out a little bit. They're really, really weak on defense. I think they only get back 3 starters from last year. They do get back a decent amount on offense, but I don't know. I think it's going to be Donovan Smith. He's coming in here. It's a whole new offense for him. Holgerson kind of seems like he's lost his fastball. I don't know. It's just not the right fit down there. And I really thought it was going to be a good fit for Houston. I thought it was a great hire. And I think they might have got it totally wrong. I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if this is his last year down there. I don't really have high hopes for this team whatsoever. They will be bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, Jordan, they come off such a great year, 12-2 in 2021. All the high hopes, felt like Clayton Tune was there forever. Tank Dell that you mentioned, but kind of fell on their face a little bit last year, regressed some. And I actually, to CT's point, I am excited about Donovan Smith and Matthew Golden, who I think will be a good receiver for them. Kind of see what that connection becomes. But I'm not high on this team at all this year.
Yeah, I'm not high on them one bit. I'm kind of in the same boat as CT. Like, I went into last year and I was like, man, this is like Dana's gonna win the AAC. Like, this could be a good group of 5 team and kind of maybe make some noise. At first game against UTSA, they couldn't get off the field on third down. And don't get me wrong, UTSA is a great team, but that continued throughout the entire season. Like, they could not get off the field in third down. I think it was a Texas Tech game at home. It was like 3rd and 19. And they were up by like 6 points in the fourth quarter. And Texas Tech converts a 3rd and 19 to continue the drive. Texas Tech ends up winning the game. It's like, that's just bad coaching, in my opinion, from all sides. And I just feel like no matter the talent on the team, I'm just not sold on it. And we remember last time he took West Virginia from the Big East to the Big 12. And they were atrocious in the Big 12 for his 2 years there. They were not good. Kind of feel like it's going to be the same thing here with UCT. He could definitely probably lose his job. They do lose their best offensive lineman, and that's not a good thing going into a Power 5 conference. So I honestly might play the under. It's juiced to the over on FanDuel, so you can get under 4.5 wins plus 110. But I mean, they'll probably lose against UTSA. Okay, they go at Rice, then they get TCU, Sam Houston. They could split those, so we're talking 2-2 right there. Then they got to go at Texas Tech, West Virginia, Texas at home, at K-State, at Baylor, Cincy, Oklahoma State, at UCF. I mean, they could very well lose 8 games here.
Yeah. It doesn't get pretty there after Sam Houston at all. Like, it's just kind of a gauntlet there for them.
Yeah, and they got to go back-to-back games at or triple back-to-back. Texas, K-State, Baylor, dude. That is a nasty 3-game stretch. So good luck to Houston. Hopefully you're looking for your next head coach. Let's move on to the other team at 4.5. That's the BYU Cougars. Kind of shocked that they're at 4.5 wins, to be honest. CT, what's your thoughts on BYU going from independent to Big 12 here?
Yeah, this actually got hit a few weeks ago. It was 5.5. So some sharp money came in here on the Cougs under here. I think this is a really, really interesting team that needs to replace a lot. They did pick up 2 key transfers. The quarterback Slovis from Pitt last year, and then the year before USC, kind of all over the place. And now he's going to be down in Cougarville here. Pick up the running back, Aiden Robbins. He's coming from UNLV, I believe. Yep. And a year before that, he was at Louisville, if I'm not mistaken. But that should give them a kind of a nice little shot in the arm on offense. The defense was horrendous last year, but actually the one good game they did play was go figure versus Baylor. They beat them in overtime, but other than that, they really weren't good. And the head coach Kalani Sataki fired pretty much everyone on the defensive staff from last year. So who knows what we're going to get after that. It's going to be a whole new staff here. The schedule's very tough as well when you look at it. They got to travel to TCU, Texas, West Va, and Oklahoma State. They're in a Power 5 now, and it's going to get a lot more physical for them. I'm not sure. I'm really concerned with the majority of these 4 teams coming in to the Big 12 in their first year. I really think it's going to be a big time wake up call for them, and I think they're going to get slapped in the face a little bit. So this is a team I'm not very high on at all. They lost a lot, but Slovis should help them. I mean, he can make some plays. I thought he was going to do a little bit more last year at Pitt. The injuries kind of hurt him a little bit, but I don't know. You can never really trust a quarterback that's just bouncing around his whole college career, right? I mean, there's a reason for it. So I don't have much on BYU other than that, guys. I think it's going to be a rebuild year for him.
The crazy thing about Slovis is he wasn't even he was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. He wasn't even supposed to play his freshman year at USC. Injuries propel him into the starting lineup. He absolutely balled out, dude. Was incredible. Very last game, injures his shoulder and was never the same. The very next year, the COVID year, he wasn't the same. And then obviously USC moves on. They get Lincoln Riley. He bounces out. So I mean, I think this is a big prove it year for him, going forward for his career. I think the biggest question mark about BYU is they lost a lot on their offensive line, and Keaton Slovis is a guy, he's not very mobile, so like he needs a good offensive line. They did bring in a ton of transfers, so they do have experience on the offensive line. It's just a matter of how well they gel quick. Also, to note on the defensive side of the ball, they were really bad the first 5 games of the year. Last 6 games of the year, though, they held opponents to less than 170 yards rushing. So I do think they got better, but firing the whole defensive staff, I mean, you're right. Who knows what it's going to be. But
that defense just got pushed around all season, though, man. They couldn't stop the run the entire season.
At all, yeah.
At all. And to CT's point, you're coming into the Big 12 now. You better be able to stop the run, and you better be able to be ready to play physical ball. They also got to go on the road against Arkansas, too. Just never a gimme. So tough game there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that the last 2 years, 3 years, they're playing like the Navies of the world, the Coastal Carolinas of the world. They're playing, group of 5 teams for 8 games of their 12-game schedule. Now they got to play 10 Power 5 teams. I mean, it's a huge adjustment. And I don't even care. Like West Virginia, I don't think they're going to be that good, but, they're prepared to play a Big 12 schedule, unlike BYU. So I think 4.5 is a little too low. I mean, I wouldn't play the over at, I think it's like $1.88 juiced right now on FanDuel. I wouldn't play that, but it's tough to go under because I like Satake. I think he's a great coach, and who knows? This BYU team could surprise, and by surprise I mean get to a bowl game.
I agree with you on Satake. I think he's a great coach as well. I think BYU will eventually. I think it's a really good move for BYU to be in the Big 12. I just think it's going to take a few years, but I don't think Satake's going anywhere. To your point, Jordan, yeah. I think he's BYU has put their trust in him, and I think he's going to down the road make BYU a contender in the Big 12.
Agreed. Neither of you guys have a play on BYU? No. All right, let's move over to West Virginia, the Mountaineers. 5.5 wins is their total this year. This is another team that lost a lot. Obviously, lose their quarterback in JT Daniels. CT, what's your thoughts on West Virginia here?
Yeah, I actually think that this is hands down the worst roster from top to bottom in the Big 12. I really do. And I think it's the worst roster that West Virginia has had in a really long time. The last that I've checked, the QB job is up for grabs, right? It's either going to be the junior Garrett Green or the redshirt freshman. I can't remember his name, but they haven't named. What is it, Jordan?
Marchiol. Marchiol. I don't know how to pronounce Nico. Let's just call him Nico.
Nico. That's right. Okay. Last I checked, that wasn't named after spring ball here. I think the big problem with them is that they're really, really small and they're not physical at all. The defense last year, they finished in the bottom of the Big 12 in points allowed. I don't think they're going to be much better on D this year. They get back 6 on offense, 4 on defense. Really, the only thing that they got going for them is there's 4 or 5 teams, I can't remember, in Division I that return all 5 starting offensive linemen, and I believe West Virginia is one of them.
They are one.
The reason I know that is because Iowa is a team I'm really high on, and they're actually one of them as well. I can't remember the other 3, but those are the 2 I remember because I'm a Big 12 guy and high on Iowa this year. So that will help them, but man, they are just really, really small. I don't think that they're going to do much this year at all. They might be in for a really, really long year as well, guys.
Yeah,
they just got torched in the secondary last year, man. 14 plays of 40 or more yards through the air. Like CT said, 9th in the Big 12 last year. That allowed them almost 33 points a game, man. You're not going to win many games in the Big 12 giving up 33 points a game. To CT's point, you have 4 offensive starters on the line return, which is huge. I do like CJ Donaldson too, running back of theirs.
Yeah, he's nice.
But yeah, he's real nice. But man, feels like it's going to be a another coach getting fired after this year. Doesn't it feel like that, boys?
Yeah.
Neil Brown.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this might be Brown's last year for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I one thing that does benefit them, they dodged Texas, which is beneficial for them, and then but they got to go at Oklahoma, at Baylor. It's just a
Man, they start off going to the Wolves, then they got to start off at Penn State.
At Penn State. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a real nice welcome back to the 2023. Go down to State College.
Yeah, that'll be I mean, they could very well start the year 1-3, 1-4. At Penn State, they should obviously beat Duquesne, Pittsburgh, backyard brawl, Texas Tech, and then TCU. It could be starting off very bad for them. All right, let's move over to another 5.5 win team. This is the Cincinnati Bearcats making their debut in the Big 12 as well, coming over from the AAC where they dominated. New head coach Scott Satterfield from Louisville, who I don't understand how this guy continues to get head coaching jobs. But what's your thoughts on Cincinnati here, CT?
I was right there with you, dude. I was stunned when they named Satterfield the head coach. The Bearcats, they come into this year with new head coach, a new triggerman, and into a brand new Power 5 conference. I couldn't believe they hired Satterfield. He didn't set the world on fire at Louisville for the few years he was there, and I just don't really think he fits into the Big 12 at all. But what do I know? I just don't see it. Well, only time will tell. Emory Jones, right? He transferred yet again. Probably gonna be named the starting quarterback here. They almost get nothing back in terms of starters on offense. They get a decent amount back on D. I believe 5 or 6 guys that started last year. I think it's going to be a few years for Cincy to kind of fully recover from losing head coach Luke Fickell. I mean, that's tough, man. I mean, look what Fickell did with that program. All right. I mean, they were in the college football playoff. It's kind of amazing. And now you think about it, they go from that to Scott Satterfield calling the plays, and they're in the Big 12. It's a big change of a scenery. It's going to be a lot different for these kids. I don't know, man. It's just good. Like I said, I keep going back to it. These teams that are getting into it this year for the the newbies of the Big 12, it's just going to be long years for them. I have them all finishing kind of towards the bottom, except for Central Florida, and we'll get there in a few minutes.
Yeah,
the defense only allowed 20 points a game last year, which was really strong, but I don't see that happening again this year. We're talking about offensive line and how important that is. They only returned 1 starter on the offensive line too. So welcome to the Big 12.
Yep. When they named Scott Satterfield, I was just like, it was the most mind-boggling head coaching decision. And we were hearing reports like leading up to the week that like they were going to offer Dion the job. And we can have our opinions on Dion and stuff, but like Dion can recruit those kids to play in the Big 12, regardless of whether he can coach them or not. That's to be determined, but he can at least recruit that talent. Scott Satterfield for 3 years in Louisville, every single year coming into the year, all I hear is, "Oh, Louisville is going to be the sneaky team to win the ACC this year. Louisville is going to be the sneaky team. They always disappointed every single year he was the head coach. And then he plays a bowl game against Cincinnati. He's not even on the sideline. He loses the game. Like, dude, you lose your game to the players this mind-boggling hire. They'll probably have a new head coach in a few years, to be honest. I like him under, but juice $1.62 to the under. Not a very big fan of that. So I probably wouldn't play it, but it's going to be a long year for Cincy for sure. All right, let's move over to another 5.5 win team. This is actually a team that I'm pretty high on in the Iowa State Cyclones with Matt Campbell at head coach. Coming off his first losing season ever at 4-8. What do you think about Iowa State here, CT?
Yeah, it was a tough year for the Cyclones in 2022. They lost so much to the NFL, and they're still trying to rebuild from losing Purdy, Hall, etc. to the NFL. Matt Campbell I've always been a fan of. I always liked the way he's coached. I think he's the perfect fit for Iowa State. I'm actually surprised, Jordan and AK, that he stuck around this long. I really thought a few years ago, when Iowa State was really, they were making a lot of noise in the Big 12. I thought somebody was going to scoop him up. He stayed loyal there, and I know you said you're high on him. I think this is going to be one of the toughest years he's had in terms of kind of players and figuring out what he's going to do and how they're going to approach this year. He made a lot of changes to the offense that should help them. They do get a decent amount of starters back. I don't know. The talent just really isn't there. They get 8 on offense. I think 7 on D. I think they're going to be a little bit better than last year's 4-8 team. I like the trigger man. I like Hunter Deckers a lot. He gets another shot, and I really looking forward to seeing what he could do. Between Campbell and him, I think they're going to be able to win some games. And I think they could be close to a 500 team. I would lean over here. I haven't played anything, but I don't mind over on the Cyclones at all.
AK?
Yeah, I agree, man. Matt Campbell, just going back to the days of Toledo, just always seems to rally his guys. And they have a pretty tough schedule to play this year, though. Second game of the week, they're playing CT Hawkeyes, which is going to be a tough game. Got to go to Oklahoma this year. They've got to go to Baylor. Got to play Texas, got to go to Kansas State, TCU, so they don't really get to dip and dodge anybody this year. So that's murderer's row right there. Matt Campbell's a hell of a coach. To CT's point, he's just always figured it out. So Hunter Deckers, I know he'd be looking for a new wide receiver 1, but that defense was strong last year. Only allowed 21 points in the Big 12, so they returned 7 starters. I look for that defense to try to carry that team some again this year. If they can figure out offense, they'll figure it out. But man, what a tough schedule.
Yeah, they lose Will McDonald, which is a huge loss. Like we won't try to sugarcoat that, but they do get their 2 best linebackers back, including their star linebacker Bo Frailer. So I think their defense will be okay. I don't think they're gonna have a ton of drop off. I think they'll be, a solid defense. Plus, they've had the same head coach, John Heacock, for a decade. It seems like he's been there forever. I do think the offense is a question mark. They've obviously lost Xavier. What was his name? Hutchinson. Xavier Hutchinson. Yeah. But I've heard that Matt Campbell's going back to more of a 2 tight end set. So I think that's going to be beneficial to them. A lot more 11 personnel. So they do have a tough schedule. But Matt Campbell does his best work when nobody has any expectations of him. And he does his worst work when they do have expectations of him. So
right,
I kind of their win total sitting at 5.5, so we think they're going to be a sub 500 team. Like this is the kind of Matt Campbell team where they're going to pull a couple upsets and they're going to get bowl eligible and be playing in a bowl and come late December. So I kind of like the over. I'm not going to lie, and it's at -$1.10 right now, which isn't bad. Don't know if I'll get to the window with it, but. Because I think there's a lot better win totals out there. But this is going to be a team I'm going to keep my eye on all year, that's for sure. All right, let's move over to the Kansas Jayhawks, coming off their best season probably ever. 6-7 last year, made a bowl game. Lance Leopold doing a hell of a job after coming over from Buffalo. CT, what's your thoughts on the Jayhawks this year? They're actually returning a lot.
They return a ton. They do. Leopold, I mean, man, he showed the world last year that the Jayhawks are serious about changing football, changing their look from just a basketball school into, hey, we could play football too, right? The good thing that they have going for them, they might have one of the best QBs and running backs in the whole league, right? Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal. It's a pretty dangerous combo. They, like I said, they return a ton on offense. Defense should be a little bit weak. The schedule's tough. Really, really tough. They got to play Oklahoma and Texas. What's the total right now sitting at? Is it still 6 flat?
5.5, juice to the over, $1.44.
I mean, I think they could get 6 wins. I do. I mean,
the only thing, like, you look at their schedule, I mean, they got to play like all the good teams. That's the biggest problem.
That's the biggest. Yeah. They didn't get any schedule break. Some of these teams got schedule breaks with the new teams coming in. They unfortunately weren't one of them.
They did not, but they got a soft non-con. Missouri State, Illinois, Nevada.
Yeah. Right.
Because I don't think Illinois is going to be as good as they were last year. You know, they lost a ton on defense. And that's where they like hung their hat, and they get them at home. So like they should start 3-0 right there. So then
you're right. They should start 3-0. Yeah.
So then you just need 3 more
BYU,
wins.
They get BYU at home. You could see them starting 4-0.
Yeah. Then you just need 2 more wins. Then you got to go at Texas, UCF, at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, at Iowa State, Texas Tech. That's
they get back. I think they get back 10 starters on offense.
They do.
So, yeah, they get back 17 total starters, CT. They lost all 4 of their starters on their D-line, but pretty much returned everybody on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, except for the 4 guys up front.
And it's not like their defensive line was great last year either. So it's like
they're going to – if they can figure it out on defense at all and put anything together, they're going to play spoiler to somebody or a couple teams, actually. When you're looking at getting to 6 wins on that total, I actually like the over here. I haven't played it yet, but – really like the over because I think they can easily start 4-0. I think they can beat Cincinnati. I think they can, steal one from Oklahoma State, Iowa State, UCF. You win 2 of those games, you're at 7 wins right there. That's if you don't steal one of the Power 4 there, if you will.
That's very true. And
that offense is going to score, man. That Jalen Daniels, we saw as long as he can remain healthy.
Well, no, because even the backup is good. What's his name? He played a little bit last year. Jason Bean.
Yep.
He was nice when he played last year.
Bean, yeah, he's gonna be a senior. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, even if for some reason he misses a couple 3 games, like I don't think there's a ton of drop off between the 2 quarterbacks. So I think that's like beneficial in terms of taking the over.
I mean, sometimes when I do shows like this, and you start talking about it with other people that have great minds, you start kind of saying to yourself, wow, you know what? I wasn't that high on that team, but the way we break it down here, I'm starting to like it. You get over 5.5. I don't mind that at all. I haven't got to the window yet, and I'm thinking about my bet right after we finish the show.
I might be there too. I didn't even think about it till we hopped on. I'm like looking at their schedule. I'm looking at 5.5. What they return, their defensive line is a concern. I'm not gonna lie, like that is a big concern. But they weren't good last year, so it's like
the defense as a whole wasn't good last year. But they allowed 35, almost 36.
Well, their secondary is good. Their secondary is good. Yeah. They only allowed 260 yards through the air last year.
They return almost every offensive starter, though. I mean, you're looking at a team that's got so much experience. That plays such a big factor here, man. When you're talking about all these teams coming into the conference from, group of 5 conferences, man, this team is going to play spoiler to somebody.
I agree. I absolutely agree. All right, so let's move over to our first 6.5 win team. That's going to be the UCF Knights coming in from the AAC. Should be one of the better teams. I don't see a total on the board for them. It is off the board at FanDuel.
Is it? I thought I saw 6.5 the other day. Last I saw, I think
I'm seeing 6.5, but there's no vig next to it. Like not even $1.10.
Okay. Hold on, Jordan. I have 6.5 in my notes, Jordan. But let me just look. Yeah, Jordan's right. It's off the board at all the major books.
That's interesting.
Could be getting hit.
But
right now.
When I did my notes the other day, it was 6.5.
Yeah.
Same. Yep.
It was. I had 6.5. At like minus 145 is what I had found.
Over?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I had under 6.5 at plus 110 in my notes.
Wow. See, all right, CT. What do you think? We'll go with 6.5. We'll go with that vig right there. What was it? -$1.
In my notes, I found over -145 the other day,
Okay.
under +110.
CT. What do you think about UCF this year?
Yeah, I think that Gus Malzahn has done a decent job down here, guys. I actually didn't agree with Auburn letting Gus walk, and I think Central Florida made out really well, being able to pick him up as their head coach. And this is going to be, I think, the best team out of the four newcomers into the Big 12 this year. He gets a decent amount back, 6-6. He was already, and sorry, when I say he, I'm talking about Gus. Gus was already doing a really good job recruiting. He was pretty much recruiting at a Power 5 level before they entered the Big 12. So I think that's going to only help them here. And being the coach for Auburn for so long, that was able to help him do that, right? Like Gus Malzahn is a big name in college football, and he could get some the good 3-star and the lower tier 4-star kids to come play for him, and I think he's going to, especially now they're in the Big 12. The tougher schedule is going to be the question for the Knights and most of the other newcomers to the Big 12, but I think this team will be able to kind of handle it and maneuver it better than the others. And the trigger man's pretty decent, right? John Rice Plumlee, he could really air it out, and I think it's a matter of how far, if they could stay healthy and Plumlee could stay healthy, it's a matter of how far Gus and Plumlee could take them. I think they might be a team that could be bowl eligible, though.
AK.
Yeah, doesn't Plumlee just feel like a Malzahn quarterback? Like he just feels like he just fits the mold there. Prototypical. They lost a couple starters on the offensive line, so got to replace those guys this year. I know they lost their D coordinator too, so always looking at that. But two preseason Big 12 guys up front. That sounds huge to me. I know they got to replace a couple spots on their secondary too, so they can put those together, which I think Gus Malzahn will with that offense, and I think Plumlee has a pretty big year. To CT's point, I'm in agreement. I think this is by far the best of the four teams coming into Big 12 this year.
We all agree there.
Looking at their schedule, though, they get to Dodge, Texas, but they got a pretty tough game week 2 at Boise State. I think we're going to see what they're made of bright and early this year.
Yeah, playing at Boise is never easy.
No.
But, to CT's point, Gus Malzahn probably is the most equipped of the four coaches coming into the Big 12, in my opinion. So I think that benefits them. Reese Plumlee definitely has to stay healthy, though. He has to for them to go over, which is why I probably wouldn't play it over because, he did miss 2 games last year. So It could happen again this year. They do return a lot on their defense. They return most of their defensive line, which is good. And so their defense should be a little bit improved. Offensive line, they lose 2 all-conference offensive linemen, which is tough. But they do bring in some experienced transfers, including a first-team All-MAC Marcellus Marshall from Kent State, which I think is pretty big. He was really nice for them. So, I mean, they have experience. They just don't really have experience with this team here. So, going to be interesting how they gel. But I think, playing Kent State and then, to your point, AK going at Boise to Boise State, playing on the blue turf, that's we'll see what this team is all about pretty early on. But
then they go to Kansas State to open up conference play. So, welcome to the Big 12.
They have to go to Kansas State, to Kansas, to Oklahoma.
Yep, their schedule is tough, man. I mean, they got to go to Texas Tech.
Yeah, they do dodge Texas, though.
Right.
Yep.
So
they get back to experienced both. I think they're seniors, Baker and Hudson, for nice targets for Plumlee. They're both experienced. They got speed, so that should make his Plumlee's life a little bit more at ease for sure if he could stay healthy.
They actually returned.
RJ Harvey will have a big year too at running back for them.
They returned 4 of their top 5 receivers from a year ago. They also transferred in Drake Metcalf from Stanford at guard,
right.
which is a huge one. You know, Stanford, they always produce very good linemen. Marcellus Marshall, which I talked about from Kent State. And then they return their left tackle, Tylen Grable, and their center, Bula Schmidt. So pretty decent. They got talent on this team. I just think a lot of it has to do with Reese staying healthy, man. Like, he has to stay healthy. So we'll see. Are you guys leaning either way on this?
I think the number's right.
Yep.
6.5. I think this might be 6 and I could see 6 and 6. 7 and 5. I'm not getting to the window either way.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
All right, let's talk about the next 6.5 win team. That's Oklahoma State Cowboys with the great Mike Gundy. Man, there's a lot of good head coaches in this conference. Mike Gundy's one of them. What do you think about Oklahoma State coming into this year, CT?
I think the Gundy era is slowly coming to an end at Oklahoma State. And
Really?
I think this team is going to be very interesting to see what happens this year. It's still mind-blowing to me that Spencer Sanders, he took off he was the 4-year starter for the Pokes. He took off to Ole Miss, and he's fighting. He not only did he take off, he's fighting for that starting job over there at Ole Miss when he was their guy at Oklahoma State. Guys, like, you would go to the games, right? I've been to so many Baylor, Oklahoma State games, and all you would hear is they in the crowd, they talk about Spence, like they're on the nickname basis with him, like they're his son. Like, they loved this kid. And then did you see what they got? They went and got who's probably going to be their starting quarterback. It's the veteran, what's his name? Alan Bowman. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He has bounced around from everywhere. They take him from Michigan, who hasn't really played at all since his first couple years at Texas Tech. And now all of a sudden he's going to come in and be Gundy's starting trigger man. I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, they barely return any starters from last year. 5 or 6 of them on offense, 2 on defense. There's going to be a lot of new faces here for Gundy, and they're still trying to recover from losing defensive coordinator Jim Knowles to Ohio State. I don't care what anybody says. Like, Gundy seems to not know what to do on defense anymore since Jim is gone. So, what is it? Is it still 6.5 here on FanDuel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that number is right as well. I think they're at best a 500 team.
Yeah, they're actually switching to a 3-3-5 defense. He just can't figure it out at all. Yeah. The only thing I have to add, because CT kind of knocked it out of the park on that one, is they do have a very favorable schedule break. They don't have to play Texas. They get Oklahoma at home. They get Kansas State at home. They get Kansas at home. They go to West Virginia. Either. Don't have to play Baylor. They go to Houston, go to West Virginia, to Iowa State, and to UCF, and get BYU at home. So, like CT said, I think the number's right only because of that schedule.
Yeah, they were dog shit on defense last year too, which is very un-Gundy, like, to the point of losing what's his face to Oklahoma State, Jim Knowles. I question the quarterback. I don't think they have a good quarterback. However, I do think they're going to play good defense. I do think they'll be better on defense than last year. And I think that, to AK's point, they have probably the easiest schedule in the Big 12. Yep. They had a nice schedule break. So I could easily see them getting over 6.5. I won't get to the window with it just because who knows what you're going to get out of the quarterback position. Just hope you don't have to see Gunner again. That's for sure. He looked awful last year.
Yeah, he really did. I think for Gundy's sake, I don't think we're going to see him again. I think he kind of knows that was a big mistake.
Yeah. Losing Spencer Sanders is huge though, and Spencer
Huge.
and he transferred to a school that already has a starting quarterback. That's how much he was like willing to leave. Like that's crazy to me. That is
wild.
Hey, Jordan. Yeah, actually, they don't play. I just realized they don't play Texas Tech or TCU either.
Yeah, they have the easiest.
They have
easiest schedule.
Cakewalk.
Like Arizona State's going to be down. You know, if they lose that Arizona State game, that tells you everything you need to know about this team. Like they should easily go into that Iowa State game 3-0, even though South Alabama's a good team.
I was going to say South Alabama,
but they get them at home.
Give them a game,
but they get them at home. You know, I think that's beneficial. And then you get Kansas State at home, Kansas, and you might lose one of those games, but you should split them. At West Virginia, you should win that game. We talked about how bad West Virginia is this year. Cincinnati, winnable game. Oklahoma, you probably get dog walked. At UCF, you probably lose. At Houston, winnable game. BYU at home, winnable game. So that's easily 7 to 8 wins right there. Not easily, but 7 to 8 winnable games. We'll see.
Yeah, I think seven is a fair task for them.
I agree, which makes it tough to take.
We're doing this show off of FanDuel, Jordan, but just doing some shopping here. There's actually some sixes out there.
Really, from
like
who?
Minus 130, and a few books have the 6.5 at like plus 110 now. So the under is definitely getting hit here.
I don't know if I don't have the balls to play under 6.5 on this, dude. With that schedule, I don't have the fortitude. What do you think?
Well,
Irv?
you can't get behind that quarterback can't stay healthy, and if Bowman goes out for any amount of games, this offense is going to be in complete shambles because who's the backup? His son, right?
Gunnar Gundy.
So they over under all depends on the health of their QB, honestly, because they lost their best defender to USC. Even though they went out and hired a D3 DC, it should be nowhere but up with this defense, honestly, because at the end of the season, that defense was horrible.
Yep.
They do return a bunch of starters in the offensive line too, so I see them trying to run the ball some here too.
Definitely. I mean, that's what they should be trying to do.
Yeah.
I just think there are some games where they're going to have to get in shootouts, and those are the games that they're going to, you know.
Yeah, they're going to be in trouble versus Kansas State, Kansas. I don't even think they got the offense to hang with Oklahoma. Well, if Bowman's healthy, maybe. But Oklahoma should be a top, 15, top 20 offense.
Irv hates Oklahoma so much.
No, I don't. I just don't like their fans in the last 2 years because they just can't get over it, man. They like that ex she left on prom night for the hot chick that wanted the last dance. They just can't get over losing Lincoln Park. It happens.
Full transparency, CT. You're talking to two USC guys here.
Okay.
I'm not. I have nothing against Oklahoma. My cousin graduated from Oklahoma. I text him 55-19 every year before the season starts. It just means a little more now because we got Lincoln Riley.
This is like East Coast versus West Coast, CT.
It's true. It's true. All right, let's move over to our first 7.5 win team. That's the Texas Tech Red Raiders, AK's Texas Tech Red Raiders. Totals at 7.5, juice to the over right now on FanDuel at $1.18, under $1.44. AK, we'll let you start on this one because you were talking about the trendy pick here. Why is Texas Tech the trendy pick, and why are you starting to get off them?
Well, I never like to be on the trendy pick, to be honest with you, Jordan. So
it's true.
That's half the reason. But they return a lot of guys, man. I listen to a lot of podcasts, just like we all do. I scroll on Twitter, just like everybody does, and it's everywhere thing you read is Texas Tech. So they got a bunch of fifth-year guys coming back. They only allowed 41 sacks. They allowed 41 sacks last year, so that's got to get better. Defense, they've got to figure that out, but they do return 6 starters on there. They probably have 2 of the better offensive linemen. In the conference. So you're looking at a team that's going to score points, but it all rests on Tyler Shaw's shoulders. So he had a very good year last year. But like I said, I hate being on the same side as everyone else. So that's why I haven't got to the window on Texas Tech yet.
CT, what do you think about Texas Tech here?
Yeah, I'm with AK. A couple months ago, I was like, wow, Texas Tech might be a sleeper here, and I still think that they could be a sleeper. I put a small bet in on them. I think I have a ticket for plus 1,300 to win the Big 12. I did like it a lot more a couple months ago. The thing I think that the Red Raiders got going for him is head coach Joey McGuire. He's going to be great for the Red Raiders eventually. He was great last year in his debut. He won 8 games, and this is a big season for Red Raider Nation, and they get a lot back. Like AK said, they get 8 back on offense, 6 on defense. In regards for starters from last year, that's quite a bit. They avoid OU. They do get a tall task as the Ducks come to Lubbock week 2, and then they finish at Texas. But they're going to be very powerful on offense. All their key pieces are back. Their top 5 wideouts are back. So they're ready to rock and roll on offense. And yeah, it kind of rides on the shoulders of Tyler, right? He's capable of being a leader and excelling. Will he do it this year? I mean, last year they were kind of, screwing with the trigger man position the whole year.
Yep.
I have a lot of respect for Joey McGuire. He was a longtime assistant at Baylor, and he said at the beginning of spring ball that this team this year is at least 14 points better than last year, which had 8 wins. So we'll see if Joey McGuire says that. I believe him. He's a man of his word, and he's a loyal guy. And I'm really rooting for him to do well down there. Defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter, he has this defense going in the right direction. They led the Big 12 in sacks last year. So I know it is becoming trendy. A lot of people talking about this team, but I think they can make some noise here. I think that total was 7. A little bit back, and I know it's back. It's up to 7.5 right now. If you could find a 7 at a decent price, I'd take a look at it to play the over there.
Losing Tyree Wilson is huge.
Yep.
Because Tyree Wilson just don't grow on trees. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get a Tyree Wilson every year.
So let alone at a Texas Tech.
Yeah, so that is a huge loss that they're going to have to make up for. They do return basically their entire defensive line aside from him, though, which is beneficial. A defense that only gave up less than 169 yards, 4.3 yards per carry last year, which is really good, right? So that should be, maybe the run defense is better. I don't think the pass defense is going to be as good as last year. This is still a stout defense, so a good defense. That's returning a lot of talent. A lot of DBs are coming back. They also added a lot of transfers. C.D. Baskerville from San Diego State, who was really good for the Aztecs last year. Braylon Lux from Fresno State, who's an underrated cornerback as well. So I think this team has talent. But, man, and Irv is going to talk about this too. I already know it. Tyler Shuck is we don't know, man. He's a question mark, bro. Like, he's had opportunities at Oregon, got beat out. You know what I mean? Goes to Texas Tech. And they juggle quarterbacks last year. Like, why is this guy never the guy? That's my question for this team.
Well, he's gonna be the guy this year. So, like you said, he's the wild card. His last 6 games last year, he looked really good. His legs he's really a weapon with his legs. If his passing can improve, I wouldn't say night and day, but marginally better. Australia, because his deep ball is pretty good. It's just his short and intermediate stuff is where he gets into trouble and he overthrows. He don't know when to take. Sometimes he takes too much off the ball and it gets picked, and sometimes he puts too much on the ball and it's just a complete throwaway play. So they're going to get tested right off the bat. Week 2 got Oregon coming to town, so that's going to be a good indicator of how the season might go for them as far as when they play the higher, the upper echelon teams in the Big 12. But besides having to play Texas and Baylor and Kansas State, they play all the new guys against them. I kind of like the over because I don't see – only team I see giving them a run for their money out of the newcomers is UCF. Houston was one of my top 5 most disappointing teams of the season last year. But Baylor on the road is going to be tough. Kansas on the road is going to be tough, and they finished the season at Texas, so it can go either way. But shows improvement. His health is going to go a long way for this team because we know on defense they are one of the better teams in the conference. So, and they return a lot outside of a top what Tyree Wilson went top 7, top 8.
Yep.
So I think they'll be fine on defense. They're going to miss him, but Tim DeRuyter is a real good defensive guy. Goes all the way back to his Mountain West days when he was at WAC days when he was at Fresno State.
I think that Oregon game is
Duran
key.
Bradley is a name to look for too, Jordan. His chemistry, I think he's going to be one of the better receivers in the Big 12 this year that not a lot of people are talking about. So he really came on last year. I just remember that Oklahoma game at the end of the year was just Oklahoma couldn't stop him.
Yeah. We had a lot of those games. I think that Oregon game's key, fellas. Like,
if they can win that game, sky's the limit.
But if Oregon goes in there and beats them down, like that could be a deflating L.
Yeah,
one of those L's that kind of trips you up for a few weeks.
Nah, because after they play Oregon, they got Charleston State, West Virginia, and Houston, and that's 3 wins.
True.
Then they're on the road against Baylor, so that's gonna be another big test. So within the first 2 months of the season, we're probably gonna know where is Texas Tech at as far as the Big Four in the conference because they're part of the Big Four now.
Yep.
Looking forward to how they do. Don't love the 7.5 over, but
I don't love the over either way. If you had the shooting squad had me up against the wall and had to make a choice, I'll lean the over.
So
I think CT was right though. I think that 7 that he got was key.
Yep.
Yeah, because that hook is going to be rare, really, really. Yeah, that hook might ruin you.
Yep. All right, let's talk about another 7.5 win team. That's CT's Baylor Bears. 7.5 wins right now. Juice to the under, $1.88. The over, $1.52 at FanDuel. Dave Aranda, phenomenal head coach. Before the Trojans hired Lincoln Riley, Irv knows this. I wanted Dave Aranda. That was my guy. But I'll take Lincoln Riley all day over Dave Aranda. No offense.
I agree.
Well, a year before that, we almost had him as our defensive coordinator, but Baylor offered him the head coaching job, so it all worked out.
He's a great. I think he's a great head coach. He's a leader of men, as I like to say. CT, what do you think about your Baylor Bears here? Tell us why they're going to win this conference.
I'm not going to tell you why they're going to win this conference because I don't have that high of expectations for this team this year. It seemed last year something was off with this team, and still talking to a lot of my friends that went to school with down there, that they agree with me. We really can't figure it out what kind of happened there, but Randa, he's a great defensive minded coach, like we were just talking about, and it just wasn't there last year. That's going to the defense is going to need to be a lot better this year. And if they're going to want to compete for the Big 12 title here, they get back Blake Shapen, taking the snaps. He had a sophomore slump type season last year. After a stellar end of his freshman year, right? Leading Baylor to the Big 12 title after Gary Bohannon gets hurt versus Kansas State towards the end of the season. I thought it was really, really odd that they named Shapen the starter after spring ball. Because they got not Michigan State, Mississippi State transfer Sawyer Robertson. He transferred to Baylor, and he from what I hear, he looks pretty good in spring ball.
Yeah, everybody thought he should have been named the starter, honestly.
So I was really, really shocked that Aranda didn't wait there. I don't know if he was getting nervous that maybe Blake transfers. We've had a lot of turnover with quarterbacks the last few years of transferring out after a few years. So I don't know what Aranda was doing there. I would have liked to see them battle it out a little bit more, but they're a very young team, guys, and they only return 3 starters on offense, 5 on D, but it's kind of deceiving, right? The speedster Maneri Baldwin wide receiver, and the running back Richard Reese, he was a freshman last year. They're not considered starters from last year. I guess it's it matters who you talk to, and everybody's got their different type of way that they say if somebody was a starter or not. But those two guys played a ton, and Reese was an All-American as a freshman, probably the best back in the Big 12. So they do have that going for them. They lost a lot on the offensive line, and they did rebuild with some transfers, but it's not sure how that's going to work out. They got a key transfer, Ketron Jackson, the wideout transfer from Arkansas. So between him and Baldwin, they should be decent targets for Chapin. Can he stay healthy? He got a concussion last year. It's going to come down to how good the Porter players are, and if they can mix in here, guys. But right, I know we're looking at FanDuel, and it has 7.5. Right, there's some 7s out there, Jordan. Right, and so you go down the schedule. I have them winning 7 games. I have them beating Texas State, have them beating Long Island, have them beating UCF. I have them beating Cincinnati, Iowa State, Houston, and Westphal. That's 7 right there. And now you get Texas Tech at home. That'll be a dogfight, especially with the Joey McGuire factor there. And then you have to go to at K-State, at TCU. So 2 very, very tough games.
So CT, you're chalking Utah up as an L at home?
I am. Yeah. Just for the sake of kind of going through. I think Utah is going to be very good again this year, and I'm chucking that. I think that will be gravy if Baylor wins that game. But looking at this, like, to make a bet, I think they have 7 wins with 3 toss-up games.
Interesting. Because I think that game being at Baylor, I think benefits the Bears.
It's early in the season. That Utah team does return a decent amount.
But they also lose their best offensive player in the history of that program, in Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
So and we don't know the health of Cam Rising either. Like his knee might be shredded.
Fans tell it Keithy or Ku, however you pronounce his last name. He was supposedly better than Dalton Kincaid before he got hurt. So we'll see how that works out for him. But
yeah, I bet.
I wouldn't automatically chalk that Utah game up as a W for Utah against Baylor, because we got to remember Utah week 1. They are at home, but they have to play a physical team in Florida. And when you have to play a physical team, then you got to go on the road that next week. It does zap you a little bit. And seeing how Florida is going to be able to run the ball down their throat, because we don't know what they're going to have at the QB position. So that could be something to watch out for. They could be on upset alert against Baylor. Now, with Baylor, you expect the defense to get a lot better than it was last year, because that's Dave Aranda's calling card. But with this team, if Blake Shapen could go back to what he was as a freshman, like his towards the end, where he was looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 and the upper tier quarterback nationwide, if he can get back to that, then the sky's the limit for Baylor, because honestly, he's got to get better on third downs, man. He's good on first and second. He can make you a clutch play, but some of those third down plays where you like, well, all you had to do is look to your left. You had to do wide open.
Well, Irv, we talked about this several times last year too. Jeff Grimes doesn't do him any benefits
no favors
on the play calling.
I don't see how is he still the OC?
Yeah.
I don't see how he still has a job. He for a coach to put a player out the way he did.
CT, we talked about this so many times last year on our shows. Like Jeff Grimes, his play calling is like
it's horrible.
It's so bad. Like every first down, run up the A gap.
Run up the middle. Yeah.
Every first down, it's like the same thing.
And then on third downs, he's the Derek Carr of quarterback, like all OCs. It'll be 3rd and 7. He runs a curl of out in a flat route, and like, bro, where is Shapen going to throw the ball? He's already under duress.
Oh,
I'm like, bro, help him out. Do something, a screen, something. Oh man.
It was a mind-boggling team last year.
While you guys have been breaking this down, I've been doing some shopping for us, and there are some juice 6.5s out there still too.
Are there really?
Yeah.
I would kill those.
Actually, at one of the other major books, minus 150, you can get 6.5 right now.
Because
Where's that?
Caesars.
Wow.
So I think
Minus
there's
150.
I think there's two things
What?
with this team, fellas. Real quick. First of all, because both CT and Irv kind of hit on it, Blake Shapen, I think he's gonna be on a short leash. Because last year in the West Virginia game, CT, I know you watched that game. Kyron Drones, he was so nice when Blake Shapen got hurt. Kyron Drones looked better than Blake Shapen. And the second Blake gets back healthy, he takes over the job. I think Blake's going to be
the reason why he transferred too.
Yeah,
he's at Virginia. He's at Virginia Tech now, I think.
And now
he might be the starter for them.
So my thinking here is like that Utah game, they lose that game and Blake Shapen doesn't look good. We're probably seeing Sawyer Robinson start that third game at Long Island because that's a perfect game to get his feet wet.
Yeah, home versus Long Island. Yeah.
Then next week you got the big thing versus Texas. But man, Baylor has Texas number these last couple of years, and until I see it change, I'm not just gonna chalk that game up as a win for Texas either.
Well, CT's gonna send over a couple cases of Viva Tequila Seltzer over to Sark on that game.
Hey, Jordan, one thing else, you guys have crushed it on the Baylor breakdown, but you kind of hit on it with the play call, and they finished 9th last year in red zone offense. They have got to figure out a way to put the ball in the end zone in the red zone. And CT, you maybe can elaborate more on that and what happened last year in the red zone. But 9th last year in the Big 12 in the red zone, man, you're not going to win many games in the Big 12 doing that.
They kept trying to run it up the middle. That's the problem.
They do get this is something that I left out. So obviously I'm really high on Richard Reese. I'm really excited to see him in his second year here. I think he's going to be a 4-year player at Baylor and graduate. Barry's talked about how much he loves being at Baylor, but they get Dominic Richardson from the Pokes guys, who he was their top running back last year, and he's going to add a lot of depth and kind of a little different dynamic of a runner compared to Reese. So again, I agree with you guys on Grimes's play calls, but that could maybe throw a little wrench into things here. Having both Reese and Richardson, they get back 3 of their top 4 wideouts as well. So Grimes is going to have to shake things up, though. Totally agree. And Aranda's going to need to be better on defense. But you guys are making me feel a little bit better. I said 7 wins, and you guys are talking, beat Utah. You're saying maybe beat Texas. So AK said it, and no one else said it, and including myself. So shame on me. Yes, they get 8 home games this year, which is wild and outrageous, but that's not going to do anything but help this team.
Yep. And you got Dave Aranda, which is good.
Yeah, and you don't know the health of Utah's quarterback. What's his name?
Cam Rising.
Yeah, Cam Rising. Yeah, a lot of people like to think he's a very, very good quarterback. I personally think he's mid. He just plays under a really good play caller that highlights his strengths and doesn't play towards his weaknesses, which is him playing with the lead.
Irv hates Utah.
ACL though. Huh?
I said Irv hates Utah. If you can't tell.
I don't hate Utah. I just like to keep it real with some of these teams. So he tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl. That was in January. You telling me he's gonna be
that's
anywhere near 100?
Not only did he tear his ACL, he tore it after he already had a knee injury previously in the year. So he's coming off 2 knee injuries back to back. So
honestly, I would not want to rush him back into playing because he only would be it's that kickoff is the September. He tore it in January. ACL is a 6 to 9 month injury. We're looking right at the 8-9 month mark of him post surgery. So we'll see how he heals and how is he ready. But I wouldn't just chalk that Utah game up as a loss because if he's not playing, then things would definitely slant towards Baylor in that game.
And they lost a lot too. Utah, that is.
All right, another thing you got to realize too about Dave Aranda, he's very familiar with Utah because he was the DC and he cut his teeth at BYU being a defensive analyst, and he knows that program and Kyle Whittingham very well. So
It's true.
that could be another advantage for Baylor heading into that game.
It's true. Irv's going to give you every reason why Utah is going to lose that game.
No, I'm not saying it's a toss-up. I'm not saying Utah's going to win, they're going to lose, but
Okay, so if you had to set the line right now, what would you have that line at?
Utah will probably be what, a -3, -4 favorite. They're not going to be more than they're a touchdown favorite. You hammer Baylor all day. You bet the house on Baylor.
I was going to say Baylor -1, 1.5.
Yeah, so but they might give Utah, if Utah beat Florida, they're probably going to be the favorite headed into that game, especially if Cam Rising plays and looks somewhat decent. But honestly, if Baylor's the dog in that game at home, you should love home dogs in college. They usually cover, if not win outright.
All right, let's move on to TCU. They are also at 7.5, juice to the over, $1.44. Obviously, coming off that horrible national championship showing where they got absolutely destroyed. But Sonny Dykes did his thing, man. No one expected that team to be there. They upset Michigan in the semifinal. What do you guys think about CT? What do you think about TCU here?
Well, Chandler Morris, he's going to be the guy taking the snaps, right, to start this year, just like he did last year before he got hurt in the opener. And that led to Max Duggan and taking over this Frogs team and not looking back, and took them to the national title game. Yeah, they did get embarrassed, but man, it was pretty impressive what they did. National runner-ups. They got to replace a ton, right? Their top 2 rushers, their top two or three wide outs, a lot of key linemen. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys know who's their new offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Kendall Briles.
Kendall Briles.
Big fan of that kid and his dad. So
same. What an absolute massive pickup for the Frogs. He's taken over the plays, play calling on offense. Like Sonny Dykes, I'm really tied to a lot of people that are in the know in Texas football down there. Like, as much as Sonny Dykes did a great job last year, he's not really the guy that's the brains behind the operation. He's a big rah-rah guy. He could get these kids up, get them playing, but Sonny Dykes can't tie his shoes, okay? Kendall Briles is going to be absolutely massive for him. Once they get the pieces for Kendall, like, he's going to have those explosive plays, just like he did at Baylor, Ole Miss, Arkansas. So that is going to be massive for them when eventually they get up and running here. Dykes, he grabbed a couple of transfers from Bama. Maybe they could help running back and wide out. That, I think they only get 3 back on offense. They get a ton back on defense. They should be big and pretty solid at the linebacker position, but if Dykes and I forget the defensive coordinator's name, but if they could find the way for their pretty young secondary not to get too exposed, you can't count this TCU team out. I'm not saying I like over 7.5 wins, but man, ever since the Gary Patterson days and now look what Sonny Dykes did, this TCU team is always a thorn in the side for everybody in this conference.
Agreed. Gillespie's the defensive coordinator, by the way.
That's right, Gillespie. Thank you.
Yeah, I think CT knocked it out of the park there, man. TCU's defense is actually going to be tough this year again, too. Josh Newton, probably one of the best DBs in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they added the number 1 JUCO corner, too. Transfer class was amazing. Chris Marshall, he was a 5-star receiver from Texas A&M, but somehow, some way, he didn't make it on the team. So I don't know if he transferred again or got dismissed. But yeah, they got what's that? I think the other guy that was 6'5", I can't think of his name, Williams.
Receiver.
They're looking for him to probably step up and be the number 1 guy this year to replace Quentin Johnston.
Savion.
Another big thing, they got a 5-star tackle transfer from Bama, Tommy Brockermeyer. I think he was the number 1 or number 2 tackle in his class. So I think he could step up and be an instant impact guy for him. But only thing that might hold this team back is what they lost. They lost
the They lost two All-Americans on their O-line.
Yeah. Yeah, the All-Americans on the O-line that they lost. Morris did beat out a Heisman runner-up, so that lets you know his talent level. Max Duggan will be missed, but I think Morris they'll be just fine with him. And Kendall Browse, man, it don't get too much better than him as far as offensive minds in college football. So I think he'll pay immediate dividends. You won't see it right away because he doesn't have his players that he really needs, like CT said. But I think they're going to be more than good enough on the offensive side of the ball. It'll come down to that defense because that front seven did take a lot of losses, and one of their better players was a true freshman, but they got to surround him with some talent so he just doesn't get phased out of the game. I think they can make some inroads with that. They did add some pretty good transfers. So, but the schedule does get brutal after the first. I'll say at Iowa State is probably gonna be their first test because SMU might put up some points, but I think they'll do more than enough to withstand SMU and beat them. They should knock Colorado's dick in the dirt and welcome prime time to the Power Five. After that is Nicholls State at Houston. Houston probably gets destroyed at home. SMU, that could be a low-key shootout, destroy West Virginia, and then that's when their schedule picks up.
They got to close with Texas, Baylor, Oklahoma, which is brutal.
Yeah, that's a murderer's row. No, they got to close with Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas, Baylor, and Oklahoma.
Yes.
And 3 out of those 5 are on the road, back-to-back on the road against K-State and Texas Tech.
Well, let's move over to Kansas State. 7.5 wins, juice to the over $1.80, under 7.5 $1.04 plus $1.46. CT, what do you think about K-State here?
One more quick thing, Jordan. I'll give out a play here. I bet TCU minus 18.5 and minus 19.5 week 1 versus Colorado. It's 20.5 right now. I still like it. I think that line keeps going up. Yep. And I think they absolutely smashed them week 1. So little play there before we get into K-State. So I wanted to just get that in real quick.
Good play there. Love it. All right, K-State, 7.5. What do we think here, fellas?
Jordan, I'm with you. I completely agree with you. I think Chris Kleiman is the best coach in the Big 12. And I think we really saw that last year. Right. He gets to stick with Will Howard this year as the trigger man. And he made the correct decision last year to stick with Will Howard, and that paid off.
Yep.
He's now back for Howard. This is going to be his 4th year with K-State, and he's the leader of this team. They absolutely love him. Deuce Vaughn is gone, as we know, but the sophomore Giddens, and they get a Florida State transfer, Ward. They're going to be good plugins here. I don't think that is going to be like Deuce is a big loss, but I think they're going to be able to plug and play there nice and easy between the two of them. They returned 7 on offense, but only one starting wide receiver, and that's the senior Phillip Brooks, who I'm really high on. I love that kid. He made some great catches last year, especially late in the season there. Yep. They get back 5 on D, and that's the question mark for right now. They lost a lot of talent to the draft as well, but they're going to be a contender just by having Kleiman and Howard. Expect for K-State to be right there until the end of the season.
100% agree. I think they did enough in the transfer portal to kind of offset the losses that they did have, and I think getting back Will Howard is the biggest beneficiary, and then obviously having Chris Kleiman. I also think their schedule's kind of nice. They do have to go to Texas, to Kansas, and to Texas Tech, but they get TCU at home, Baylor at home, Iowa State at home. Their non-con isn't that tough. They'll probably beat Missouri at Missouri. They're a better team than Missouri. So I like them over 7.5. I'm not saying I would bet it at $1.80, but maybe taking a shot at them to win the conference. I don't think that's a bad idea. What's it at right now? You can get it plus 550 at Caesars. Looks like the best price. I don't think that's too bad. Because I do think there's a shot for them to win this conference again.
Yeah, outside of Jaden Daniels, who's a better quarterback than Will Howard in the Big 12?
Quinn Ewers.
Nope.
Uh,
He has more talent, but
I mean, I'm pretty high on Gabriel, but
yeah, I like him too. Yeah.
wait OU
So,
until I go off on that.
so it's a toss
Kansas.
up. No, Dylan Gabriel's nice. He was a freshman All American. He looked good at UCF, but I think he's finally gonna be healthy from that injury. I think that injury was a lot worse than people portrayed it was to be when he hurt his shoulder before when he was at UCF. So I think him 100% healthy. I can see him, Howard, and Daniels being the best QBs in the conference. So, like I said, the only thing that might hold K-State back is the defense because I'm not really too concerned about the offense. They went out and got some good athletes, and they had pretty much their best recruiting class ever. They signed 3 4-stars. The last time they did that was like in the mid '90s. So, I think K State's gonna be all right, especially when you got an established QB coming back. That always goes. That's always big when building from your prior success from the previous year. So I really like that too for them. But all their tough games are on the road, so I don't see them winning them all, but they probably can. I think they can beat Texas. They can beat Texas Tech at home. Texas always due to lose 2 games or maybe 3 that they're not supposed to. So I wouldn't automatically write Texas as a W, even though Kansas State will be on the road. So I lean the over. I kind of like the over, honestly.
AK?
I think the biggest thing that Kansas State is going to have one of the best offensive linemen in the league too.
That's true. Good
Cooper
point.
Beebe, preseason All-American.
Yeah. That's an NFL. Yeah, that's an NFL draft pick right there.
Probably one of the best, if not the best, interior offensive lineman in the country. So, when you're looking at a foundation, I know they got to replace Deuce.
Uh-oh. AK froze. Oh, we'll get back to him. I do agree with him. He's doing the dirty work for the linemen for sure. I didn't even mention that, but that's a good point.
This year too.
There we go. We got you back, AK. You froze there for a minute.
Yep.
He's still frozen. AK, can you hear us? All right, let's move on. We'll move on to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. I can hear you guys.
Okay. We caught you were talking about the guard, I forget his name, and then you kind of froze
Cooper
there.
Beebe.
Yeah, and then you froze there for a minute.
Sorry, guys, we're getting a terrible storm here. I was just saying they return Cooper Beebe, one of the best offensive line in the country. When you're looking to replacing Deuce Vaughn and that running attack, man, it's easy to do with that offensive line in front of you. So I think Kleiman's going to find some more consistency, just like he did in North Dakota State, and think they're going to be right back in the thick of things again.
Nice, love it. So we kind of all lean the over for K-State, I assume. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our big dogs here. We'll start with Oklahoma at 9.5 wins. Basically $1.10 each way. CT, what do you think about Oklahoma this year? I know you're high on Gabriel.
I know we said at the end of the show we're giving out bets, but we kind of been doing them as we go.
Yep.
So this is one I played the biggest in the Big 12. And I played over 9 wins here for Oklahoma at WinBet, and it's -130, and it's still available right now. And I really like it a lot here. We know Venables' debut in Boomerland didn't go as planned, right? He went 6-7. 7 games was the most lost games at OU in 25 years, right? The sky is pretty much falling in OU. He only had 3 conference wins, and he got blasted by Texas 49-0. I mean, when's the last time that has happened in the Red River Shootout? It's I think that's the only time that's ever happened.
Only shutout ever in the Red River rivalry.
There you go. But 4 of those games, 4 of those losses were close games, and they lost by a field goal. Right? And so I don't think Venables is as far off as everyone kind of thinks here. He gets back both coordinators, offense coordinator, defense coordinator, the trigger man, Gabriel. And he also didn't waste any time. They hit the transfer portal hard. They got a bunch of strong transfers that should help them look like the OU that we're used to seeing. I'm a big Jeff Lebby guy. He's our Art Briles' son-in-law. Little tidbit for you guys there. I think he's going to have the offense kind of explosive and rolling like we're used to seeing from Jeff Lebby and Oklahoma. Kind of throw out last year, throw that out the window. And Gabriel, I think he's one of the best in the Big 12. The offensive line is going to be solid to protect them. They get back 5 offensive starters, and with the transfers, with Lebby to work with, I think they could be dangerous. They get a transfer from Michigan, Andrell Anthony. Really look for him to kind of break out here as a nice target for Gabriel, guys. And Venables, he's a defensive minded coach. They should be a lot better on the defensive side of the ball this year. It's almost impossible for the D to get worse, to be worse than they were last year. They get back 7 starters. That's not going to hurt. The schedule, guys, is very favorable with the expansion. They only face one top team away from home, and that's Texas, and that's in a neutral site, as we all know. They're going to be favored in 11 of 12 games, and they avoid K-State, they avoid Baylor, and Texas Tech. Okay. That's huge. Missing those 3 with the expansion here. I played over, and I would play over 9.5 as well. I think this is a 10-win team, and I think OU is going to make some noise in their last year in the Big 12.
I agree. I agree. In true Dabo style, they got a soft non-conference, so that starts it. And you're right, dude. Texas has to go through murderer's row of the top teams in Big 12, and Oklahoma does not. They miss out on a lot of those guys. I do question Venables as a head coach, though, and I question it to begin with. Like, I think he's a defensive coordinator. I think he's now just a glorified defensive coordinator. So I do question him as a head coach, but not this year. This defense is going to be a lot better. The offense is going to be better, and their schedule is easier. So I'm with you on the over 9 and 9.5 for sure. It pains me to say. What do you think, AK?
I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Doesn't it just feel like the Oklahoma or Texas just rides off into the sunset?
Well, Texas should, but we're gonna get to them in a second. We all know what's gonna happen there. It's inevitable. Irv, what's your thoughts on Oklahoma? Because I know you don't like them.
I have nothing against Oklahoma. I don't know why you keep saying that, but I don't mind. If you apply logic, they're going to, like CT said, they're going to be favored in probably 10, 11. It might be 11 out of 12 of those games because they get TCU at home. So even though, was that TCU? Yeah, that was TCU that beat the brakes off from last year, right?
No,
or was that Kansas? No, that was Kansas. Who beat them 55 to?
That was Texas,
20.
Bro. Texas beat them 40-0.
Yeah, TCU. No, he's right. TCU beat them 55-24 last year too.
Yeah, TCU killed them at home, so that could be a revenge game, even though it's the last game of the year. But Oklahoma might be favored in that game, seeing out what TCU lost, and Oklahoma's at home. So really, the only game they might be underdog is Texas. So it could be like CT said, 10, 11 win team. You could definitely see that happening. Kansas State might be tough on the road. That could be a shootout. But they play out of all the newcomers, they get Cincinnati, they get BYU, they get UCF, which could be a tricky game for them because that's right in between Texas and Kansas. So, but they should win that game. Oklahoma State, we don't know where they're going to be at the QB position. If Bowman's hurt, I can see that being a tougher game because they're on the road. They got to go to Stillwater. So,
as long as Oklahoma doesn't have to trot out General Booty, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay. But they got a true freshman who's supposed to be pretty good, Jackson Arnold. But he won't pass up Dylan Gabriel. But he looked pretty good during the spring game too. So, General Booty,
he's like their fourth stringer now.
Yeah, that Booty's going to be parked on the bench, so you ain't got to worry about that.
Hey, Irv, I'll tell you, though, in that TCU game last year, Dylan Gabriel did get hurt in that game.
Yep. Yeah, he did. And then it was all downhill from there. So
I'm pretty sure I bet Oklahoma in that game, too. I'm pretty sure I bet against TCU like every week last year.
No, you didn't bet against them. TCU was one of our best bets to cover that game.
Oh, maybe that game. But I remember I bet against TCU like every week for like a good 6 weeks. I'm like, they can't continue
CT
winning
bet
this.
against them in the national championship.
Good call.
Man, me and Jordan thought they was gonna cover. That lasted a quarter.
CT's text, I think, to us in our group text was whatever you can put the other way. Just doesn't matter the number.
Yeah, it was that was a good call, man.
They hit the over by themselves.
Yeah, that was nasty. I even took like the live under 72 and it didn't even hit.
Woo.
Yeah, CT was drinking Vivas by the second quarter of that game.
Yeah.
A whole lot of them.
Be nice if they were all like that, but unfortunately, they're not.
Yeah, that one reminded me of when Alabama played Notre Dame, but just a little worse.
Yeah.
Hey, but on the flip side, having TCU in that game, like it was over very quickly. So it was like, at least I didn't have to sweat it out. It was like, all right, I can move on with my night, dude.
Yeah, I just need to like drown myself in a bottle of Knob Creek or something. Jim Beam at that point.
Move on to 2020. Move on to 2023. Close that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy because we had such a good bowl season too, and then we closed off with that, and it was, woo. All right, let's move on to those Texas Longhorns. Yes, the Fighting Sarkeesians.
Cuddy Sark.
Oh man, I gotta love that guy. All right, so they're also at 9.5. Juice to the over though, $1.34, under $1.10, which is shocking because they, like we've been talking about, they gotta play Murderers Row, the Big 12. CT, what do you think about Texas?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be loaded on offense, right? That's a given. They return 9 starters. They got to replace Bijan Robinson, but I think Sark's going to be able to do just that. He gets a couple of underclassmen here that are supposed to be pretty good. The Frosh, CJ Baxter. He's the nation's #1 running back in the 2023 recruiting class. So I'm sure that will help here. Not sure how effective he can be right away. If Ewers plays like he's capable of playing, this Texas team could be scary good, right? There's tons of talent at wideout and tight end. The defense gets back 6. They have a great solid defensive line. They have the pieces to be great, and I hear Ewers is much improved from last year. You see these videos on Twitter and YouTube of him absolutely airing the ball out. Yeah, it all looks great. I mean, the schedule is tough. We've talked about it all show. Like they have to travel to Bama, TCU, and Baylor, and then they have to play OU in Dallas. So schedule's really tough. And guess what? Like Sark doesn't really have the best track record here when loaded. So I don't necessarily think that Texas is back. This is going to be the best team that he's had. Let's see if he can finally put it together here. If it would be anything, it would be under for me. And I wouldn't be betting anything close to be getting to the window on them to win the Big 12, especially at plus 115. I bet Oklahoma plus 360 to win the Big 12. I think that's a really good number because I expect OU to be in the finals. So, having plus 360
you can hedge
in
out.
pocket, no matter who they're playing in the finals, that's going to be a better number than no matter who they're playing in the finals there.
Great points there. Irv?
Yeah, it's all set up for him to win. So I don't know, man. Sark doesn't do well as a favorite. The only bright spot of their season last year was they should have beat Bama. I don't know if they can do that this year on the road. Bama will probably be weak at the QB position, but we don't know until they suit up because they are losing the best QB they ever had in Bryce Young. But I just can't get behind them. The over-under is 10, right?
9.5.
9.5.
I just can't get behind them winning 9.5 games. I'm gonna have to see it to believe it because Sark is called 8-win Sark for a reason. And so until proven otherwise, I would have to lean the under. And a lot of mostly all their tough games is on the road. And I understand they killed Oklahoma last year in the Red River rivalry, but Oklahoma didn't have Dylan Gabriel, so
they're gonna be out for. Oklahoma's gonna be out for blood in that game too.
Yeah, so they definitely be losing that game 49-0 this year. So, and outside of that, they got to play all the big dogs. They got to play Baylor. They got to play Kansas. They got to play Kansas State. They got to play TCU. They got to play Texas Tech. So you can maybe if they stay completely healthy and play the way they're supposed to, because hands down they're the most talented team in this conference. It's not close. They have an NFL talent at QB. They got NFL talent all over the field.
All over.
Two bookend tackles who probably both their tackles probably going to be first round picks. They started as true freshmen. Both of them was freshman All American. Banks looks like a top 5, top 10 pick.
Yep.
So it all depends on what Cuddy Sark can do, because Bo Davis, the defensive side of the ball should be, they had some letdowns last year. They should be more consistent this year. Just for some reason, Texas always lose a couple games they're supposed to win. So don't be surprised if they go 8-4, 9-3.
So, before you got on, I was telling the boys here, if Texas loses to Alabama, right? Those Texas fans are gonna be calling for Arch Manning, dude.
Yep.
He's not gonna play this year. The only way he plays this year,
he might not, but I'm saying like the outside noise.
Yeah, I get it, but he's not even the second stringer right now. He's third string.
Yeah, but you know how these Texas fans are, bro.
No, but his I think the Manning calling card is going to override Texas trying to rush him onto the field. They wanted Arch to go somewhere where he could grow and redshirt and learn the system and then be ready to compete for actual playing time in his sophomore year. They didn't want him rushed out onto the field as a true freshman because they probably believe in, him being actually developed a little more before he's just being thrown to the wolves. So the only way I see Arch playing significant snaps this year, if Texas either has injuries or Quinn and Malik Murphy just go out there and completely just throw game. We talk about multiple pick sixes and that type of stuff. But I think it's safe that you might see Arch play, but he's not going to play to the point where he doesn't have a red shirt year. That is my understanding. He could end up playing, but I just don't see him being rushed onto the field where they have said all along they wanted him to go somewhere where he could develop and be ready to play.
Yeah.
After his freshman year.
I agree.
Hey, Jordan, let me throw something at you.
Yeah.
And let me throw some at CT too. They come off playing Alabama. They play Wyoming at home. They go to Baylor, who we all think is going to be a tough game. Then come back home against Kansas, knowing they got Oklahoma back at home again next year. We're talking about Kansas, and they're playing spoiler alert. Don't get caught looking past Kansas this year.
Yeah, that's obviously that's a prime dog spot right there where we're obviously going to take the points there, but you could definitely be sniffing an upset.
Sure.
Yeah.
Knowing that we kind of all agree that they're going to have that Oklahoma game circled, right?
Oh yeah.
Or Oklahoma's going to have that game circled too, but I don't know. Just feels like such a Texas move.
Oh yeah.
That's a nice sandwich spot right there, AK. That's a nice look. Yeah, I totally agree.
And CT's gonna send Sark a pallet of Viva. So, if they win that Baylor game, he'll be celebrating. If he's losing, he'll be drowning himself.
Yeah,
he may be sending Jalen Daniels a pack of Viva.
Yeah, right.
So I think we all are kind of in agreement. Like, it's just impossible to take Texas over 9.5 wins, given the head coach's history. And as a USC guy, like, I've just seen it too many times. Like, I just can't put my money on Sark at all. I refuse.
Now, I'll put my money on Sark as offensive coordinator. He has 1, 2, 3.
He's like 5 national titles.
Yeah, I think it's 4. 4 national titles as offensive coordinator. So,
yeah. Well, it's easier to do than run an entire program.
Definitely, I agree with that. So that's why until he's proven otherwise, other than 8-win Sark, then we're going to figure that's when we'll see.
We thought this team was going to be better last year, too. We thought they were going to win the Big 12 and then, consensus Big 12 favors. All right. So we kind of gave out some bets throughout the show, but let's recap real quick. Let's go around the horn. CT, you're the guest. Your best bets for Big 12.
Yeah, my best bets for the Big 12 is Oklahoma over 9 wins. Like I said, guys, I think at minimum this is a 10-win team. So I'm not afraid to bet over 9.5 as well, getting that plus money. I also bet Oklahoma plus 360 to win the Big 12. Also gave out I have a ticket on Texas Tech. I'm not as high as I was on it a couple months ago, but I do have a ticket on that. And I do like Baylor over 7. If you could find Baylor over 7, I like that as well. And gave out one game, TCU minus 20.5 over Colorado.
Love it. AK?
So I hadn't fired any bets before this show, and I think as soon as we're done here, I'm hopping on the Kansas train. I found some 5.5s out there. So I think I'm going to fire Kansas over 5.5. Should be able to find that. I'm finding it somewhere around like minus 140 ish. Don't have a problem with over 6 at around even money as well, but over 5.5 minus 140. AK best bet for the show.
Nice. Irv?
I like the over for Baylor's at 7 or 7.5.
You can find
There's
7
out there as well.
There's 7s.
Okay, I like Baylor over. I like Oklahoma over. That schedule is cake. I think they definitely go over. And I love the under for West Virginia. That team is going to be downright terrible.
Yep. Nice.
Agreed.
We all agree on that. I am with you, AK. I like that over 5.5 for Kansas. I did not come into this show. I did not come into the show thinking that, but after talking it through with you guys, I really do like that. And I also will probably try to find an Oklahoma over 9. I think that is a very solid bet as well. And I'm very tempted to take Texas under 9.5, dude. Like, I think I need to do it just for the agenda. Like, I have to.
I know. I'm with you on that. I agree.
I just don't see any possibility where we already know what's going to happen with Texas.
Unless Quinn Ewers plays like a Heisman finalist, I don't see them going over. And out of all these road games, they got to win at least 3 out of the 5 to go over. So that means they have to beat Alabama. They got to beat Baylor. They got to beat Texas, TCU. And they got Texas Tech at home. But they got TCU on the road, Baylor on the road, Alabama on the road. And the Red River Shootout is a neutral site.
They're losing the Red River Shootout. I already know it.
Don't be surprised if Kansas beats them, because you got to think they're going to be coming off at Baylor. They got to play Kansas at home, and the Red River Rivalry is the next week. That's a definite trap game right there.
And they lose those 2 games, unders, and you're cashing.
Yeah, and Jordan, their last 4 games, they play at home versus Kansas State, go back-to-back on the road against TCU and Iowa State, then come home with Texas Tech, and you're going to get Texas Tech's
best shot.
Yep.
Yeah, they're getting their best. They're going to get everybody's best shot, especially with plus 115 to win the Big 12. That's a slap in the face to the rest of this conference, honestly. Texas ain't won this conference since 2009.
Yep. Nah, you can't play that at all. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you. CT, thanks for staying on late with us. I know you're on the East Coast, same with AK, but he's used to this now, so I don't feel bad for him. No, I'm just joking. But, man, make sure to follow CT on Twitter at CTBet16. Catch him on the Hustle Show podcast on Wager Talk every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. CT, once again, thank you. We really appreciate you. For AK, for Irv, Jordan Stacks on Stacks on Stacks Last. We'll catch y'all later. Have a very, very blessed, what is it today? Wednesday. The 4th of July threw me off, man. Have a blessed Thursday, everybody.
Man, they still popping fireworks where I'm at.
Of course. You're in LA.
Yeah, I know.
Y'all be blessed, man. Have a good night, guys.
All right, have a good night, fellas. Talk to y'all soon.